So let's go ahead and continue with what's called the in-office activation. And remember, this is another easy source, easy, high quality, good source of new patients. And so essentially what it is remember, you have all these patients, all your patients come in, and periodically they come in with a circle of influence, a spouse, mother, father, brother, sister, kids, something like that. Well, that's the highest potential, highest quality new patient that is. And so remember, we have to realize that those people, and again, I say if you never think like this, you'll have a very difficult time getting new patients. And that you have to remember every time you look at somebody, whether it's the grocery store, you see everybody in a grocery store, all the patients, family members and friends that come in with them, just because they're going someplace, they're all on the S curve of economics somewhere. So remember, 8% of those people will be looking for a chiropractor within a year. Well, we can't wait around for 8%. That's a small number, and we don't want to wait around for a year. Now, out of the remaining 92%, 25% of them do not have a chiropractic gateway problem at all, back pain, neck pain, aches. We leave them alone. You can't get somebody to buy something that they don't have a need for. But we said out of the remaining 75%, those people have a problem to some degree. They have a chiropractic problem to some degree, a chiropractic gateway, back pain, neck pain, headaches, arthritis, joint pain. Okay. And remember, how do we know that? Well, it's the second leading cause to go into the emergency room, back pain. Back pain is the second leading cause going to the local general practitioner. Back pain is the second leading workers' compensation injury. Joint pain, the number one medication sold over the counter is NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Why? Joint pain. See, all of those. So there's massive amount of people that are getting care elsewhere, not looking for a chiropractor. That's where there's way more business. That's actually 68% of the market versus 80%. But they're not looking for a chiropractor. And then remember, when we look at them, we go, out of that 75%, 10% have a much higher need, which means it's much easier to get them as a patient. 10% have a much, much lower need, which means it would be way more difficult. But about 80% in the middle, if you just follow the formula, the educational sales formula, you'll get a new patient. And so, of course, the educational sales formula is need is equal to money times time divided by trust. So if we look at that equation, we already have the trust component taken care of with these your patients, family members, and friends that come through. And it's very easy to see if they have a problem or not. Okay, if they have a gateway problem. So you're way ahead from a marketing standpoint of getting new patients. It's so much easier to get new patients when they let's just face it, they come in and I just literally ask them, if you ever been to a chiropractor before, have you ever had any back pain, neck pain, headaches, joint pain, arthritis, any old injuries, anything like that? Well, there's a high percentage of them right now that are going to say yes to some degree. Well, who's standing in front of you right now? That's a new patient. That's a high potential new patient that's standing in front of you right now. Now, depending on what you say and do, you can run them off, you can scare them off. Okay. So that's why it's so important to learn these steps, to stair step them through, because you can't just take somebody who's not looking for a chiropractor and go, oh yeah, we can help you. Let me help you. That'll create a defensive reaction. And they'll just back away and they'll come up with all kinds of reasons. No, I don't have time now, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So these steps are unbelievable, vital. The steps, not just the content of what is being said. So, because remember, when they come in, I want to establish need. That's the first thing I need to do is establish need with that person. And after I've established need, then I'm going to come over and minimize the obstacle of money. And then I'm going to minimize the obstacle of time. And I'm going to stair step them from one day to the next. That's what's going to happen. But we got to stair step them because you can't do all of this at once. Okay. All right, so we said we make sure every patient, that's a rule, every patient, and we've talked about it earlier, every patient that comes in that has a guest with them is required to come back. And we covered that, how to do that. So now we're going into the great detail of the words. And then we talked about the importance of contacts. Unbelievably important. I mean, it's a major part of significantly getting this to work. In other words, I just can't approach them one time and pounce on them. You'll scare them off. Okay, you can't do that. And I'm not just talking about words now. I'm actually talking about body language. I can't just face off to them in front, oh, I can help you. And I'm like, no, you'll create a defensive reaction. So this is why these mini contacts, it's like in the same room. It's the same concept as a day 4, just the byproducts of multiple contacts from day 1 to day 2 to day 3 to day 4. Trust and confidence naturally goes up. Defense and resistance naturally go down. It's the same concept, but it's on a micro scale. Has the same effect, just on a micro scale. That's it. An example is no different than if you went to a party, social party, and you met somebody. You'd have a certain amount of defenses and resistance. And then let's say you introduced them or whatever, and then you walked away, you went over, got a drink or appetizer or whatever. And it'd be much easier to talk to them the next time when you see them at that same party. And then let's say you leave again and you go do this or that or that. Well, then you see them again at the same party. It would be even much easier to talk to them now. See, that's the natural byproduct of multiple contacts. So this happens just within the confines of the office, essentially in the room. So, and we make it happen. And we make it happen with our body language. And so and again, we're going to go into the detail, but essentially when they come back, there's going to be a first contact. And that's essentially going to be the introduction. Hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then we're going to purposely turn our body and not pay attention to that person now, even though I know I'm going to be coming back around. I'm going to go for them as a new patient, but I'm going to purposely break away verbally and physically and visually. I'm going to turn my body, move, and I'm going to pay attention to the patient now. I want a total break. All this happens in the same room. And then I'm going to engage my patient a little bit. Then I'm going to come back. See, now it's much easier to come back. Now, remember, when I come back now, their defenses and resistances are much, much lower. And we'll get more information out of them. Then I'm going to break away again. And I'm going to come back to my patient. Deal with my patient. Then when I'm done with my patient, by the time I'm done with my patient, I already kind of know now if they have a problem or not. And then I'm going to establish need and make the offer. See, that's what's going to happen. And what allowed all that to happen is I didn't just pounce on them when they came through the door. So you got to be really aware of this. The physical component, not just the verbal component. They need to see that it's a break, that there's no more attention being paid to them. Why? It makes their defenses go down. That's why. Okay. And by the way, will engage this patient, somebody they already trust. I will engage them and use this person's trust to increase the likelihood of getting them as a patient. It's already there to some degree, but I may, and I'll share with you how that works in a minute, but I may use this person as leverage to nudge this person a little more to take the next step to become a new patient. Okay. So we'll go into that. So let's go into the verbal, it's like a fine dance is what it is. Okay. But I'll tell you, you'll get a lot more of all these patients coming through. You'll get a lot of new patients every month, depending on how many come through, these guests that come through, if you just do this. And one thing you just need to be aware, when it's a regular patient, like an adult patient, we'll go through the gateways. If it's a kid, we're checking for scoliosis. Every kid gets checked for scoliosis when they come into my office. period. That's a rule. So the gateway is different for a kid than it is for an adult. Kids are checked for scoliosis. Adults are checked for gateways and ADLs. That's how that separates out. Okay. So having said that, and then again, if they don't have a problem, we find out real quick if they have a gateway problem or not. If they don't, boom, it's over. Move on. Next. Okay. So let's pull this up.